Hi, everybody. This is Jenny Kim from the Gershman Group. I want to thank everybody for logging in and taking a view of our little podcast here at the Gershman Group. I want to also introduce a very terrific gentleman, Brian Neville from Lex and Neville, one of the top security firms in the nation. And we are here to welcome Brian, by the way.
Thank you.
We are here to talk about, once again, another retention package. It's crazy that we're back at this place again. We were just here last year, you and I talking about First Republic with JP Morgan Chase. We were here last year also talking about United Capital and the purchase by Creative Planning and those deals. I mean, we go back further. This is not a new occurrence. You look at Raymond James and Deutsche Bank, Credit Suisse and Wells Fargo, the list goes on. What makes this to us very unusual is this deal is being instead of a buyer from a traditional bank brokerage firm, we're looking at a pure equity play by KKR. That's all they do. They are a pure equity firm, and not just like a minority or like a 50-60% investor. They bought Janny outright. How is this, in your opinion, different? I mean, we see this very unusual. How do you see that? And should advisors, how should they be looking at this as a result?
Yeah, I think, the way you just put it into context of when we saw the First Republic, failure and then the rescue by JP Morgan, and we've seen some of the other retention packages. I remember not too long ago reviewing all the Merrill Lynch deals, when Bank of America came in. And so when I think about these kind of in a historical context, having KKR come in, which is a venerable organization, right? They've been doing this a long time, but, they do it across every industry under the sun. And, what they do is they buy an organization, they issue shares, they'll take a certain percentage and give it to all the employees. Here, it would be management and the financial advisors. And the hope for those folks is that the company can grow and that they'll find another buyer, whether it's 5, 7, 10 years out, and that equity has appreciated such that it was worthwhile for you. So I think always in these retention packages, the analysis any advisor has to do is, what am I getting? What is its potential upside? And then what are the restrictions that are being put upon me? And so, we've only taken a very quick view of some of these. We haven't been retained to really dig into them yet. I think that's going to come fast and furious in the next week or so. But a quick overview is, my observation is that this is a retention package kind of light. It is light on the upside benefits and it's light on the restrictions. So it's not the type of deal like we saw with United Capital, where you're signing on to non-competes and you're signing on to non-solicits and you're signing on to, hey, if I sign this, I better, in my mind, mentally be prepared to retire from that firm, because the ability to transition my book of business out of there will be very difficult. In contrast, this one looks like it would be easier to do so, but then you got to come back to, what am I getting in exchange for that? Here, you're going to get stock in a new entity that is Janny. And what is management and ownership going to do? Are they going to reinvest into the company? And so the folks that are getting these are going to be better positioned than anyone to kind of figure out, like, well, am I happy with the investment that the firm has made historically into the technology? How do we compare to the wirehouses? How do we compare to the other, regional firms? How do we compare to the independents? Is our offering on performance reporting? Is our offering on contact management system? Is our offering on sales support? Is our offering on, all kinds of different types of offerings? Is it at the level that I need? And are they going to invest in it? Because how are they going to attract new financial advisors? How are they going to retain financial advisors? So, what I would say is, if you were at Janny, a month ago, and you're at the, back 9 of your career, and you were always going to stay, this is something that you probably analyze and say, hey, this is kind of a no-brainer. I'll take this and hope for the best. If you're on the younger side of your career and you were already contemplating a move, this is a time you better very much do an analysis. What am I getting here? What's available on the street? What are my other options? And is this an opportunity to maybe leave? And one of the things, Jenny, you and I have seen many times through the years is, when a firm is in play like this, and everyone has their own word for it, I hear, like, there's blood in the water at Janny. So everyone there is getting a call from 15 different recruiters and 15 different branch managers in their marketplace. And what sometimes happens is you'll get a better deal than you would have, but for all that. So I think any advisor who had been thinking, hey, maybe I'm not going to be here for so long, this is a excellent opportunity to analyze the deal, think about the upside, and speak to you and Roger and others about what are my alternatives. What does it look like if I go, to another regional firm? What does it look like if I, go to a wirehouse? What does it look like if I go independent right now? What are my options, and what are the upsides? And how will my clients react to any of this? I do think that there are some people out there. I've heard this anecdotally that, especially kind of the more middle America type investors, they're like, I don't want to be owned. I don't want my advisor working at KKR. Like that to them, that's kind of the codification of the big evil, PE venture capital firm. They really still going to have my best interest at heart. Janny kind of appealed, I think, to a lot of advisors historically that, they weren't working for the big Wall Street firms. This was, more of a middle America firm. Is their reputation going to be affected? So there's a lot of things that I think are going on in advisors' minds.
I totally agree with you. And ultimately, as you just said, KKR is not a wealth management firm. They've invested in firms. So they have, and fintech and other industry, financial services industry companies, but to actually be a wealth management firm, that is not what they are. They are going to, and they have spoken about, as you just said, they're, in order to grow that equity and that value, they are going to, and that they are going to flip in the next 5-6 years. They're going that is going to be their aim. That's the business that they are in, is they will look to flip that equity and get a return, whether it be to selling it to another bank brokerage firm, another PE firm. Who knows who that will be in the future? And if you're willing to put that at risk, that uncertainty, at risk for the next however many years that may take, I mean, are you willing to do that for yourself, your family, and ultimately your clients? As you said, it does matter, because you're not going to have much of a business if your clients don't believe in you also. And that's going to be important. As you spoke about the deal and what they have to analyze, let's talk about the deal really quickly. What we're seeing is, evaluations for their book is anywhere from 25 bips to 100%. It looks like there's some negotiability in that realm. About half in equity, or maybe even less, 1/6 in cash and the rest in equity. It's going to vest over 6 years. Not even sure if it will all vest. I've even heard things about maybe half of it will vest and half of it will have to stay with KKR until it flips. What are you thinking about what they should be doing with that? What are the risks? And as we go into that specifically, if you could then talk about the stock and how does that differ in this deal, because it is so heavy stock related.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So you do need to unravel the actual legal document that is the offer, and not just look at kind of the summary of the offer. And if you have a deal like this that is lighter on cash and heavier in stock, you're at risk, right? And so here your risk is, how will this entity perform over that time frame? And I think the biggest risks to that are, will the firm have an ability to retain the existing advisor base, and will have an ability to attract more and grow? And are they going to invest in the firm's technology? Are they going to invest in a way to keep competitive in the marketplace? The larger firms are investing tremendous amounts of money in supporting their advisors, and so are the independent firms. So it is a heavily competitive marketplace where these more regional firms are having a difficult time. So I think the advisor has to, roll up their sleeves and look at this, and they almost have to kind of take their hat off of, I'm a financial advisor. You have to look at this like, how would you advise a client? Is this something that you want to put what could be for you a disproportionately large percentage of your portfolio? When I say your portfolio, this becomes a part of your portfolio as an advisor. You got to look at it and say, am I going to have that much money? 5/6 of the relative valuation of my book of business into this new entity? And then am I going to lock it up, and for how long, and with what level of uncertainty? And then back, Jenny, to you, like, What will Morgan Stanley offer me? What will UBS offer me? What will, Rockefeller offer me if that's applicable? Or what will is going independent offer me? And, through independence, then you're really investing in yourself as opposed to the firm, and you're not dependent upon their ability to grow and do other things. And if you go to, obviously, the deals better than anyone. If you go to a larger firm, it's going to be a lot more cash, right? And then you can invest in a diversified portfolio and do what you do best, because most financial advisors manage that very well for their clients and themselves. So looking at these vesting schedules also, like, if you're 65 years old and your plan was to retire in 4 years, can you even wait this out? Is that going to be something that you can tolerate? Will they have an early vesting program if you do retire? What does their retirement program have in place that allows for this? What if I do this and then the team that I would look to hand my book to, they don't stay, and then they leave and go somewhere else, and then I'm out of luck. Whereas if I had gone to another firm or sold my book, I'm all cash. So there's all types of individualized risks that need to really be analyzed for any financial advisor that's considering this deal.
I think that's so true. I mean, especially when you've been given a surprise deal like this, where this was never in your plans or even in your forethought, you do have choices. You do have options. You do control your destiny. You do control your clients, your book. You don't have to just sign this contract or this agreement. But the blessed thing on this particular version, as you mentioned, is that the covenants are not as onerous as many others that we've seen in the past. So is there a risk for them to sign, and at that point give themselves time to evaluate and decide if they have what options they have, not feel like they're under the gun as a shotgun with that? And when they do evaluate, what's the risk of leaving that contract, since if they do sign it?
Yeah, I mean, so first of all, I've only seen one version of this, and I didn't even get a great clean copy. So, these were just rolled out. The handful of people that have reached out to us already were kind of upset because it was promised by a certain date, and then it got pushed back, and now it's like I think they just received them, and they're being told they have to sign them by the 9th. That is not a long enough time for anyone to do a full evaluation. I mean, almost every single one of these folks should retain counsel. It is not a very expensive process to retain counsel to review this and see how it applies to your situation. And then to your next point of what is negotiable and what is not. So you're being handed a deal saying, sign this by the 9th, and here's the terms. If you look at it, it should be treated like you would if you were looking at a new firm. That process usually takes months, as you know, right? Like you get a term sheet, and then you hire counsel, and then you review the underlying deal documents. So in looking at this, you got to then say, are these overall terms acceptable to me? And then, you should also ask around, see what your friends at the firm are getting. Like, if you're $1 million producer and there was a cutoff, I'll make a number up at $1.2 million, where you got a larger number, is that negotiable because your KKR is great and you've had growth? Will they adjust you into a different bracket? And then what is my competitive marketplace worth, and how does it compare to this? But also, again, and we took a very quick look at it, so I'd caution everyone to say, we looked at this very quickly. The restrictive covenant seems very light, and so that would mitigate towards maybe you sign this because you will not have a difficult time if Janny remains in the protocol, which is a big if. They're a protocol firm. If there's restrictive covenants in there that are tied to the employment agreements going forward, the protocol would trump that. Obviously, you would lose your stock, right? Like that gets tied into this. So if you accept this, and there's a cash component and there's a stock component, and a year down the line, and they're still a member of the protocol, and you've made the decision, like, I gave this a shot. It's not for me. I'm going to go to one of the competitors. As I see it right now, and I'd want anyone that's considering doing this to retain counsel, you probably could just buy yourself out of this by giving the money back and giving the stock back. So that's better than, as we said, some of the other deals that we've seen. That being said, what they're offering you is light. So it's light on the upside and it's light on the downside.
So that's a more comforting, what you're saying is a lot more comforting than what we were talking about last year. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and look, I mean, the other thing is, we hear this. I've been doing this for 30 years. I've been doing it since before the protocol came about. There's rumors of, maybe they'll withdraw from the protocol. Well, the protocol gives, effectively about 2 weeks. I think it's 10 days for firms to withdraw, which, you know, it happens. Morgan Stanley withdrew, UBS withdrew, Citibank was a member for a while, they withdrew, other firms have withdrawn. So, I would think that in and of itself, while an unlikely risk, is another reason why people should take advantage of this opportunity to do the due diligence to see what you're worth. Because if you see what you're worth and you say, I'm going to sign this, I'm going to stick around, and then out of left field come say, we're withdrawing from the protocol, well, you could dust off those offers from that due diligence that you had just done, re-engage, and probably move in a matter of days or weeks as compared to months, which would be a very difficult thing if they do withdraw from protocol.
So I think in conclusion, ultimately, advisors, you do have a choice. You have the ability and take this opportunity to look at your options, evaluate the landscape. No one says you have to make a change. However, this is a really good opportunity to learn that you are valuable, that there are a lot of firms out there and a lot of options available to you and ways to look at this. And then ultimately, most importantly, retain counsel. It's worth the time and the investment to know what you have and to where your rights are, and have somebody like Brian and his team over at Lex and Neville, or at your own local attorneys. If you need additional referrals, we can help you with that. Obviously, we are here. My team is here to help you with information and knowledge on the landscape, but by all means, seek additional help. There's no reason for it. No reason why you wouldn't do that, because this is really about your life, your family, again, your career, your business, your clients. Brian, thank you so much for your time.
One last thing I'd like to add is
Yes,
I think everyone should push back on this deadline, right? Because I think it's a fake kind of deadline in the sense of, we've seen this, Janny, through the years. Like they roll it out and it's got to be signed by this, and then a month later, people are still negotiating. So one piece of advice to everyone on these is push back on a deadline. Explain to the powers that be, hey, I do need to retain counsel. This is the most important document that's been put in front of me professionally in a long time. I need to understand it. So other than that, thank you so much for the opportunity to chat about this. And I do hope everyone really does take the time to treat it seriously.
I appreciate your time. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye. Nice job.
All right.
How do we stop this? Stop recording. There we go.
That was